We are living in an attention crisis, a war that's being fought over our very minds. And the modern world has become a battleground of beliefs, ideology, money, trends, algorithms, advertising, and echo chambers. This is why the majority of the world's most powerful corporations are tech platforms that have created a science of hijacking your attention and selling your attention for profit. The result of which is chronic stress, overwhelm, burnout, mental health issues, suicide, addiction, and attention deficit disorder. Our minds are quite literally fractured and pulled in a million different directions, and it's becoming increasingly hard to stay connected to what truly matters. And in my view, that is the present moment. If you're new here, welcome to Awakened Evolution, and today I'm going to be exploring what it means to be truly present and why I believe that this is actually the antidote to the chaos of the modern world, along with so many of our struggles within it. So, what is presence? This is a term that we all know and use, and yet it also conveys within it an incredible profundity and depth to which the majority of people are disconnected. And perhaps you intuit its true value. Perhaps you've had glimpses or moments of experiencing deeper presence in your life. Perhaps it's something that you've cultivated, or perhaps it's something that you've been missing, sensing that you need more of, but have somehow struggled to find. So what is presence? Presence is the capacity to be attuned to the present moment, the now. And so often our minds, especially these days, are focused on past or future, worrying about things that we cannot change, ruminating about stuff that's happened in the past that didn't go the way that we wanted it to, stressing over the future or what's coming or what might be coming or what we fear is coming. And these thoughts of past and future, the worries and ruminations of our mind, pull us away from the present moment, don't they? It's actually quite rare that we experience a state of deep presence and connection to the now, the immediate existence that we're in. Of course, it's always in front of us, it's always happening. And yet our mind seems to create this kind of filter, doesn't it? Our thoughts get in the way. This monkey mind, continues to bubble up all kinds of labels and judgments and worries and projections, as if we're wearing different glasses that kind of layer and put these lenses over reality. And so we can easily feel like we are somehow removed from the present moment, the what's happening right here, right now. And presence is, when you think about it, the direct experience or direct contact with what's happening right now in front of you, right now. If you're listening or watching to this, it's the sound of my voice or the visual field of me expressing and talking to you. And this is something that we can actually train. This is something that we can sharpen and deepen our relationship to. It's a skill. The skill of focusing and honing your mind's capacity to narrow into the moment-to-moment awareness of your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, your sensory perceptions. So let's do that right now. A very simple way that you can do this is notice you don't know what your next thought is going to be. Relax and just hold this pose. It's a sense of curiosity. It's like, I don't know what my mind is going to come up with next. And you don't, do you? And if we want to get really present, we can be curious and be like, hold that state of not knowing. Like, I don't know. And that creates this presence of like, what's it going to be? Is your first thought about the future? Is it about the past? Maybe it's, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Keep looking, keep noticing what arises. What are you sensing? What are you perceiving? It starts with an emptiness, doesn't it? It starts with a not knowing. It starts with a curiosity. There's almost like it's just an openness to what is. And there's a freshness to that. There's a sense of depth that comes with that. It's like a receptivity to the mystery. It's a very profound thing, actually, to be able to sit with the mystery, to be able to sit with not knowing. Because human life, when you think about it, is caught up with the constant need to know, the need to explain, the need to connect the dots, the need to be doing something. And there's a sort of counterintuitiveness to doing nothing, or not knowing, or not needing to be actively engaged or productive. And so, because so much of our society is caught up in this obsessive, compulsive need to be doing, constantly moving, thinking, planning, executing, creating, this is part of the problem. This is part of the sickness. And it's actually in the capacity to slow down and to truly tune in to yourself. To notice, what feedback is my body giving me right now? How do I feel? How do I really feel? What's my mind doing? Why is it doing that? Is there actually anything wrong right now in your immediate environment? As you look around you, are you safe? You have a roof over your head, you have money in the bank, you have people in your life who care for you and love you. You're not in a war zone. You're in a safe country, relatively safe. And yet we worry. We're constantly strategizing and conniving and surviving. The ego mind is constantly pulling us into constant activity because of the never-ending pressure of survival. And so this capacity to step back from that and to create some space and to actually just exist, just drop into being instead of doing. There's a profound link with this and your health, your well-being, the openness and capacity of your mind. And really what we're talking about here is a certain quality of consciousness. What is your consciousness doing? What is it focused on? What's the priority? And what's the results of that? And here I am not discounting or negating the need for survival, because as an ego mind, as a self, we have an agenda in the world, and the biological agenda that moves through us and motivates us is, of course, survival. We need to constantly be taking care of our survival needs. And I'm not saying that that's not important. It certainly is. But that's not the only thing that's important. There exists higher, or we could say deeper, needs that are also met by resting as awareness, by sharpening the capacity of our mind to focus, by relaxing and opening our mind and entering deeper or higher states of consciousness. This can meet very, very profound needs that exist inside of us. And in fact, I would say so much of our need for survival is because we want to get to a certain stage where we can actually stop. We can say, it's good enough. I can finally relax. I can finally stay still. I can finally ask some deeper questions and meet the needs, the deep needs of my soul. So to drive this point home, I want to give you some examples to make this a bit more concrete. Because one of the problems that I've certainly encountered in my life is that those needs that we go about trying to meet and the ego's kind of survival agenda, the problem with that is that it's never done. It's never finished. The mind will always come up with a new list of things to do. We always need just a bit more money, just a bit more progress. And when we reach a certain level, we'll finally relax. The problem is that then never arrives if we don't actually cultivate presence. If we don't actually teach ourselves to be able to slow down and build the capacity to stop. So here's some everyday examples just to help illustrate this point of the difference between true presence and being distracted. So I want you to imagine you're having a conversation with someone. You're catching up with a friend, or maybe it's a lover. And in the first scenario, your lover or your friend is kind of, you're talking to them and they're listening, but they're also on their phone. Kind of see this at restaurants or something like this, where there's a couple having dinner and one of them or both of them are on their phones. They're kind of with each other, but their attention is split. You know what that feels like, right? You're trying to get a point across, you're trying to share something, you're looking for connection, but the other person's attention isn't fully on you. And there's a major, major difference between that and sitting down with someone and they're giving you their full attention. Their body is turned towards you, they're making strong eye contact, maybe they're reaching out and touching you, holding your hand or having a hand on your shoulder or on your leg. And there's a certain emotional receptivity. You can feel that they're really with you somehow. Big difference, right? What about when you're trying to get shit done in your life? You're ticking things off your list. What's the difference between multitasking between your phone, your computer, maybe the TV's on, the kids are running around, and you're trying to cook dinner? What's the difference between that and just focusing on one specific task at a time? If you're working, you're working. If you're watching TV, you're fully watching TV. Or if you're with your kids, you're fully present with your kids. Or when you're eating a meal with people, maybe the TV's on, you're getting a text on your phone, and you get to the end of the meal and you realize you didn't taste it. You just wolfed it down, didn't really enjoy it. There's a huge difference between that and sitting down intentionally with a beautifully cooked meal that you spent time preparing and savoring the flavor, feeling the different textures and the salt and sugars and acidity on your tongue, and actually feeling pleasure as you eat. It's like, yum. Oh, so delicious. And you smell the food and you appreciate every single bite. And then when it's finished, you lick the plate. So there's a big difference between those two things, right? One, your attention and your focus is split, and the other, we've got very zeroed in, very, very present. Creates a very different quality of experience, doesn't it? Another example could be you're thinking about the past or the future. You're kind of lost in thought. We often find ourselves ruminating and thinking, and we're kind of there, but we're not really there. You know, you see your mind will do this all the time. Maybe it's even been doing this while you're listening to me. Kind of half listening, half doing something else. Or you're listening to someone talk, but they're, you can see that they're kind of half with you, part here, part there. Part with you, part in their head, thinking about what it is that they're about to say next, or thinking about something that you've said. Versus a deep flow state. Like when you are running, surfing, biking, skiing, something that engages you. Often this comes with a little bit of danger, like there's an edge. If you mess up, if you take a wrong turn, if you step on a rock or something, it might roll your ankle, or you fall off the wave and you're going to face plant and get dunked by the next big wave. This danger forces us to be in a state of profound presence, and we can enter into what's known as a flow state, where we kind of step out of time. The normal activity of the mind is banished and we are like locked in. That's often why these activities of doing these kind of things is actually quite addictive and so much fun, because it puts us into the now. It locks us into the present moment, and we, it's like time stops and suddenly we're in the flow of it. where it's like a fully immersive experience, and it feels amazing. You suddenly become hyper aware, lucid of the wind on your face, the sweat on your skin, the every step you take or every move of your body. There's a poetry to it. It's almost like a dance. It's art, because you're on the edge. And what's happening is you're actually in a deep state of presence. The skill required, the activity, the danger has put you into a state of single-minded focus on the task at hand. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's a very compelling experience, and that is the power of the present. And there's a very famous book that talks about this. It's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I remember getting this book in my early 20s. I had this spiritual kind of openness and curiosity from quite a young age, and I remember getting this book, and it was revelatory, because for the first time in my life, I started to experience these deep states of presence and connection to the now without having to be doing something intense, without having to be skateboarding or surfing or running or playing soccer. I was able to start accessing these deeply euphoric states of presence just walking through nature. Just sitting there and looking at the beauty of the natural world around me. And I started to observe and see these patterns of my mind to constantly be pulling me away into the future or into the past, and losing touch with the immediacy or the reality in front of me. And as this book sort of opened my mind, I started to look around me and see all of these people, all of us kind of like lost, disconnected, somehow removed or pulled away from the present moment. Constantly glued to our devices, walking around, woe is me, worried, rushing from A to B, not actually here, not actually in the now. And for me, that was really one of the first kind of doorways that opened me towards meditation and yoga and spiritual practice. And that completely changed my life. And perhaps you've read The Power of Now. Perhaps you've had these glimpses. Perhaps you've got the message, and then life comes along and our culture and the incessant need of our ego to survive has come along and has corrupted your relationship to the present moment. It's pulled you out. You forgot. You lost it. And I'll be honest here, I lose it all the time too. Because there's a momentum, and there's a pressure that gets exerted upon our minds constantly by society. If you spend time online, you're going to compare yourself to all these other people who are much more successful, much more beautiful, much more wealthy. And from the appearance, they might have a much better life than you. And maybe legitimately, in some ways, they might have a better life than you, or materialistically, they might have a better life than you. And so we have this kind of like, there's this competitive impulse. We're not doing well enough. We're not getting everything that we need. There's always more to achieve and do. And this is the trap. This is the trap that pulls us away from what's actually happening right in front of you, where so many of your needs are actually already met. And I catch my own mind in this trap, worrying about money, worrying about my business, worrying about the next level of success that I haven't yet reached, or, getting more when I've actually already got enough. And that corrupts, the worry and the comparing myself to other people who are doing better than me or have more than me. That actually corrupts my relationship with what I already have. Stops me from being fully here right now, celebrating the fucking existence of life, or all of the effort that I've put in to get myself to this stage. It actually robs us of happiness. And that's why presence is so important, because your capacity for presence directly determines the quality of your fucking life. And here's how. First up, relationally. Just in your immediate relationships with the people that you care about, your friends, your family, your loved ones, your lover. Your capacity for presence dictates and determines the depth and quality of your relationships. Because when you are present, you're able to actually connect with depth. You're able to bring a certain level of attentiveness, which enables you to see the subtleties of human interaction. It enables you to attune yourself to the needs and the feelings of the people that you care about, your kids, your wife, your friends. All of us have these complex interiors and these private thoughts and feelings that are somehow not always obvious. Humans are really fucking complex. And so if you actually want to get fulfillment from your relationships, you need to start to access that complexity. You need to be able to connect. You need to be able to converse and open each other or open towards one another in such a way that you get to feel seen, you get to feel deeply understood, you get to feel a state of resonance with the people that you care about. You get to connect in subtle or elevated emotional states like the state of love, the state of empathy. You get to express things from your heart and to deeply honor how you feel and how how important they are to you. Because you can have a lot of social interaction with people and it can be, really unfulfilling. Give me quality over quantity any fucking day. I would rather spend time with just a few people and go really deep and have a profound interaction and to share something real and for my heart to be cracked open by that interaction. Give me that any day over, 50 superficial conversations with people I'm not that connected to. And how do we actually get to that depth? How do we experience the quality? Presence. Dropping in deeply and being like, this is how I really feel. This is what I'm sensing in you. Talk to me. How are you really? What do you need? What's going on in your life? How's your health? What do you think about this? Let's have a deep discussion about this, about XYZ. So your capacity for presence in your relationships is crucial. And the counterexample of that would be, a man that is distracted, he's on his phone, he's too busy working, and he's not present with his lover. He's not present with his kids. And so they feel he is absent. He's avoidant. He's running away. He's too busy to give them time and attention and to really connect with them. And so the relationships suffer because he's not present. So that's some examples on the relational frontier. What about the productivity and creativity? Well, there's a kind of misconception here that by being very busy, we're very productive. Just by getting a lot of things done, we can tick a lot of things off our list if we're multitasking, for example. But what was the quality of your output? And did you enjoy the process? I know from my own creative process, my best work comes from a deep state of presence where I cut out all of my distractions and I focus very sharply on one specific thing. For example, creating this podcast. I sit down and I block off time and I sit down with my pen and my paper and I ask myself questions. I start to do philosophy. What is presence? Why is it important? In what ways does it change the quality of our lives? How do we achieve it? How do we get deeper into it? What are the obstacles? So I sit down for hours and I contemplate this shit from scratch. And that allows me to discover deep insights that I didn't even know I had. I pull stuff out of me. And it opens my mind to new possibilities. It helps me to access a deep state of creativity. And it takes time for me to get into that zone. And I notice that if I suddenly reach for my phone or I get a text or, someone interrupts me or I get distracted and start scrolling on Instagram or whatever it is, then I'm not in the zone anymore. I've been pulled out of it. I've been distracted. I'm not present. I heard a saying, at some point someone, I can't remember who it was, shared that it takes at least 15 minutes to get yourself into the zone of creativity. And every time you interrupt the zone, it'll reset. So you take 15 more minutes. So if you get distracted and jump on your phone, then you get back into creativity. You've got to do the work to get back to where you were. And that's why it's so important to focus on one thing at a time and to do that thing properly. And perhaps you can relate to that. I would rather do one thing really fucking well, very high quality, than 10 things superficially. Even if I get more done superficially and tick more things off my list, did I enjoy the process? Was I actually present with myself? Probably not. I would rather do one thing and actually be deeply immersed in it and for it to be profound. Wow, I was really in touch with myself when I was doing this creative process. I could really feel how it lit me up. I was able to contemplate and understand and connect some dots in my mind about the meta perspective or the whole process. I saw myself from a higher point of view doing my creative process, and that gave me an even higher level of abstraction or a creative insight that I wouldn't have had if I was on my phone and doing this other thing at the same time. So quality over quantity again. What about your capacity for self-reflection? Presence in its primary form is awareness of yourself. It's putting your attention on what you're experiencing right now. Your feeling, your nervous systems, the feedback your body is constantly giving you, the patterns and loops and behavior of your own mind. This is how you know yourself. This is how you understand yourself. By observing and witnessing your feelings, your needs, your traumas, your thoughts, your beliefs, the kind of inner scaffolding or architecture of your being. And this is profoundly transformative, because once you start to turn your awareness inwards and start to witness yourself and know yourself and reflect more, that's how you become aware of your stress levels. That's how you can catch yourself and give yourself the gift of relaxation rather than pushing more, pushing beyond your capacity and burning yourself out or overwhelming yourself. It's also how you catch yourself when you're telling yourself stories, or you're repeating a certain story. Maybe it's a limiting belief that you're not good enough or that you're too much. And perhaps that can allow you can relax that and have a bit more compassion and forgiveness, and to love yourself more. Any time that we can increase our self-awareness, this is going to be a win across the board. This is, in my view, this is the whole point of life, is to become deeply self-aware, self-reflective, conscious beings. And so that's money in the bank. The more that you can know thyself, the more happy, content, empowered, and fulfilled you're going to be. And the key word there is empowered. Because presence is not just it's not just about peace. There's a kind of misconception that presence is just a spiritual thing, and we've got time for that later in life when we're old. It's just about slowing down and meditating. No. Presence is not just soft, slow, and still. It's also empowering, deeply empowering. Because there's a kind of presence that is fierce, like a fierce, ferocious kind of presence. Think of the presence of a predator stalking its prey, deeply attuned to everything that's happening around it, focused on 0-point focus on a specific thing, the thing that it's hunting. There's a flavor there. There's a quality that comes with that. It's dangerous. It's empowering. There's a sexual presence that we can cultivate. The ability to penetrate your lover, not just physically, but emotionally. You can access a level of emotional presence with someone where there's nothing hidden. There's nothing else in the way between the two of you, and you can enter into a state of profound connection, unity, or even dissolution. You can feel a state of oneness. You can penetrate mentally and have a piercing insight of your mind that has the capacity to deconstruct, or to have profound insights into the nature of yourself or reality. And that's a very, very empowering thing, to feel that your mind is somehow alive with intelligence. And that comes through this ruthless kind of focus that we can develop. There's the capacity for confrontation, like to be very present to meeting or attending to boundaries in your life. So because I'm very present, I notice when someone's pushing my buttons or something is not okay with me, and I'm like, that doesn't feel right. That feels off. That feels like a boundary violation. And I might need to confront that person and say, hey, dude, that's not okay. I'm not comfortable with what you're doing, how you're speaking to this person. And I'm going to take a stand here and I'm going to challenge you. That requires presence. And if we're kind of foggy or not really with it, we will miss these moments, or we'll shy away from it, or our ego will instinctively take space and we'll avoid it because it's threatening. It takes a powerful person or being to be able to confront someone, not just with aggression, but with contained anger, and to do it in a healthy way, but with a certain firmness. So at some point, we want to reclaim presence as power and not just peace. And there's, I think, a beautiful synergy or counterbalance between those two things. And as I mentioned at the start of this episode, there is this kind of, within the broader collective, there is this attentional war that we're in the midst of. This constant ideological warfare online, the battle over our minds. And in such an environment where our minds are being fought over with propaganda, with programming, with algorithmic capture, with, these huge billion-dollar industries that are bombarding us with advertising, trying to extract money and influence from us, our capacity for presence becomes a form of inoculation. It becomes a form of resistance, or perhaps even rebellion. It's, in some ways, it's counter-economic, because if you are deeply present with yourself, you have discernment. You're not just controlled by your emotional impulses. You're much less likely to just spend money or splurge or behave very reactively or impulsively, because you're present with yourself and you're able to exercise impulse control. You're actually like, there's an urge for me to do this. Let me sit with that. Where's that coming from? Is that what I really want? Maybe not. It's also anti-algorithmic, because a reflective and regulated mind is less easily influenced. A reflective mind is able to sit and think for itself. It has original thought. And if you're present with yourself, you can actually think for yourself, which is something that most people don't actually do in their lives, because they're just reacting to life. And presence is anti-ideological, because it induces a state of mental lucidity and awareness. And that inoculates us against black and white thinking, against propaganda. Because we're able to sit with and self-reflect and think for ourselves and say, is that really true? Maybe that's just one perspective. Here's a different perspective. I notice myself being influenced, or I notice myself speaking something that I don't actually know. Maybe it's just a belief. Very powerful. And perhaps most importantly here, there's the spiritual layer to this. So presence is a function of your consciousness. It's creating the possibility for and the prerequisites for deep self-inquiry into the nature of yourself and of reality. And this is why meditation and the contemplative wisdom traditions of the world all emphasize the need for solitude, for meditation, and for stillness. And they do that because by emptying the mind, we actually make room for deep insight and direct realization of the truth. And this is something that I've personally validated. I've done a lot of deep meditation, a lot of silent meditation retreats, long stretches of intense focus and present, whereby I was able to get myself into the present moment and stay there for very long stretches of time. And that's when I first discovered that I can exist inside of my mind without thoughts. And the thoughts, this kind of monkey mind or the lower mind that's constantly, flip-flopping around, jumping from one thought to the next, this can be mitigated. This can be detached from. You can create space from that. You can basically banish those thoughts, and you can exist inside a state of consciousness that has no thought. And that opens you up to, like a meta mind. And that's a very, very profound and blissful experience. I remember the first time that I experienced that, because it was like whoa, amazing. Wow. Like, I didn't know that that was possible. And what a fucking relief. Oh, my mind is actually silent for the first time in my fucking life. Oh, it's blissful, it's euphoric, it's ecstatic. And that emptiness of the mind, I mean, emptiness is one way of thinking it. You could also say it's full, more full, because you're less distracted. That actually creates this space for you to have profound insights into the nature of consciousness and the nature of reality, the nature of yourself. And that's the leaping point. You can leap from that state. That's, in many ways we could see that that's like base camp of Mount Everest. You've done the climb, you've got up to the base camp, and now you can start to try to hit the summit. And by summit, I mean awakening or enlightenment. But first we need to get to base camp. First we need to get the prerequisites and create the proper foundation for us to be able to attempt the next stage of the climb, to reach the top of the mountain. That's a nice analogy or way of thinking about it. So how do we create presence? How do we actually cultivate this as a quality? Let's say we're convinced. I'm sold on the idea. Yes, I can acknowledge that presence would improve the quality of my relationships, my creativity, my productivity, the experience I have with myself, of my capacity for self-reflection, and my spiritual development. Wow, it's hitting all of those things. That's pretty awesome. How do we actually cultivate this? So the first step is slowing down. We need to reduce the amount of input into our system. We need to reduce the content. We need to reduce the overwhelm. We need to regulate our nervous system. If your nervous system is dysregulated, if it's constantly agitated and you're stressed, you're constantly anxious, you feel overwhelmed, then slowing down is going to be quite difficult. It's actually harder than it seems. Actually, for some people, sitting still is terrifying, deeply uncomfortable. And so the first port of call is maybe you find sitting down to meditate really, really hard. So we either need to make the amount of time quite small, or we need to find ways to access that in a better way. So we could start by doing gentle movement, yoga, some qigong, or maybe just walking in nature to regulate the nervous system before we sit in stillness. maybe you'll find that after doing a workout and you've exerted yourself and you have that kind of like, oh, that euphoria after training, you feel really good. And you've had that kind of the high that comes from that. That's also a good time to sit, because you've kind of got that nervous, antsy energy out of the body. You feel a bit tired. And that's a great time to actually just sit in stillness and be with yourself. When we slow down, we can focus on different aspects of our experience. So we can focus on the breath and just noticing the cycle of the breath coming in and coming out. It can be really helpful to focus on something rather than nothing. You might focus on a progressive muscle relaxation, so feeling from the tips of your toes and slowly working your way up your legs, up your body, torso, shoulders, neck, and head, and just letting everything soften, letting everything relax. The general principle here is anything that you do is just cut the speed. It doesn't matter what you're doing, just slow things down. If I'm walking in nature, for example, I will try to go 50% of the speed. Can I walk 50% slower than I usually walk? And I notice that when I do that, I just drop in and I'm like, oh, and I actually start seeing everything and then, sometimes I'm walking and I'll see someone speed past me and I'm like, that person's not really seeing anything. They're in their head. They're already at the next destination. They're not here. They're already 10 steps ahead. That's an example of stuck in the future. And I notice when I stop everything, I start to be still. I start to feel safe in my body. I start to relax. And then I'm like, oh, actually, whoa. Wow, nature is so fucking beautiful. My God, look at this, look at that. Wow. And I'm actually alive. I'm actually present. Step number 2 is one thing at a time. So we want to strengthen our capacity for focus. We want to put our phone away, stop our attention being split between 10 different things, get rid of this idea of multitasking. Rarely is that better. And a way that we can do that is by creating blocks of time for different tasks to compartmentalize things, and so we can be present with one thing at a time and do it properly. This is really powerful. Step number 3 is just cultivating mindfulness. So mindfulness as a practice is essentially learning to label. That's a thought. I can feel a sensation in my body. There's an emotion, internal sensation. I can see something in my visual field, visual, or auditory, sensory feedback. And so this labeling can be a really good way to just start actually creating an inventory of that which is happening in your present moment-to-moment experience. This is super powerful. And yeah, I've done a whole series of episodes on introductions to meditation and more advanced meditation and guided meditations. So you might like to go and explore some of those episodes that I've created. That'll help you to start doing this. And step number 4 is to drop all of the doing. Start resting as the observer. Start cultivating and deepening your capacity for what's called witness consciousness, or the capacity to sit there and witness, which mindfulness is great for. I like to do this when I'm driving, when I'm walking, when I'm eating, or when I'm sitting. Basically, when you're doing you can bring mindfulness to anything. And what we're doing there is we're going to stop the doing. We're going to let go of all of that. At a certain point, you can just let go and you can drop into what's called do nothing. And so we're just in complete emptiness, complete witness. And we deepen and deepen and deepen and deepen that. And over time, we observe our progress. We'll start to feel that we're actually getting traction. Because in the beginning, what happens is you try to be present and your thoughts will come in and distract you, and you'll find it's actually really hard to be present. I just can't do it. I feel like I'm failing because my thoughts continually interrupt the process, or I keep getting distracted, and it's kind of frustrating. At a certain point, that changes, and you'll reach a tipping point where you feel, I'm starting to create space between my thoughts. I'm starting to actually access the present moment. Wow, it starts to be really, really pleasurable. Wow, I start to notice all of these nuances and insights and beauty that I was previously disconnected from. That's what I would call traction, that allows you to feel like, this is working, it's getting better. I'm discovering, and there's a like an unraveling of the mystery, or a deepening into the mystery. There's a very tangible, like a sense of awe that will arise. You'll be like, wow, it feels like it sucks you in. So first it requires practice, and then there's a state of stabilization in the present moment where it becomes very, very, very blissful. Step number 6 here is that you need to be forgiving with yourself. And I say this because it's not easy. It's actually a marathon, not a sprint. There's a lot of things that are going to pull us away. And cultivating this state of being, it's not just another thing to tick off your list. It's a life skill. It's a quality of your consciousness that we're cultivating. That's going to take time. That's going to take effort. And that's part of the beauty of cultivating it, because it's not common. It's unique. It's special. And it takes effort. So when you achieve it and when you start to get results with it, you'll get a deep satisfaction from that. As I've said many times, the best things in life require cultivation over time. They're not quick fixes. They're not, give it to me now. It's something that we have to work for. Some of the practices that I recommend that will be very, very beneficial for this process: meditation, yoga, mindful walking, any kind of breath work, psychedelics, anything that's going to help you to change your state. Psychedelics are great because it will amp up it will essentially put you in a different state of consciousness and open up your mind in radical ways. And that makes it very easy to be present because your mind is literally perceiving reality differently. So you are sucked into the now. You're like, whoa, holy shit. That's why it's so powerful, because look what happens. Your mind suddenly is super alert. It's hyper aware. And so that's a very powerful hack to get you into presence. And then what I would say there is that what you experience on psychedelics is radically improved if you cultivate presence, and if you do meditation, and if you are doing these kind of mindfulness practices outside of those moments. That will help to give you so much more control and so much more capacity to deepen the experience of what you open yourself up to when you do take psychedelics. If you just take psychedelics with none of the other stuff, you can easily have a bad trip. You can get lost in delusion, can create all kinds of stories, and it may not be the truth. And you might struggle to integrate those experiences effectively. I also highly recommend retreats, a space to step away and to drop into a deeper state of presence without any distractions. This is really, really powerful. And I recommend surrounding yourself with people who are present themselves. people who are interested in conscious communication, people who are interested in authentic relating, active listening, being able to have intentional dialogue, and conscious kind of relationships, people who value these qualities that I talk about. If it's a romantic relationship, you might like to approach things like sacred sexuality together, so you can actually meet in a very beautiful, intentional way, and not just unconsciously, but deeply conscious in the way that you create intimacy. I've also done a recent podcast episode on sacred sexuality, so you might like to go and listen to that. And the key insight that I really want to impress upon you here, it's not what you're doing. As I've listed heaps of different things here, it's not what you do, but rather it's how you do it that really dictates your presence and your state of consciousness. I can practice hours of yoga. I'm on my yoga mat for hours, but I'm thinking about 100 different other things. I'm thinking about work. I'm thinking about my lover. I'm thinking da 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 da, and I can be not present at all to the process. Or I could practice for 20 minutes and be super present, super dialed in, and very, very intentional in a state of lucidity and awareness. And I might have a samadhi. My mind might awaken, depending on how I've trained my capacity for presence. So it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And so anything we're doing, we can actually bring this state of presence to deepen our experience of anything. And so presence is a key. Think of presence as a key that unlocks the functions of your mind. It's literally acting like a key that helps us to take ourselves away from the basic egoic survival dominated state of consciousness and helps us to access deeper states of consciousness or being. So, of course, it's going to improve the quality of everything you do. Right? So the invitation here is to start to cultivate presence. Obviously, I want you to contemplate, if you're up for it, where am I not present? Where am I not present in my life? How can I start to cultivate more presence in my daily life? What are the micro moves? Maybe it's a breath before you finish one task and you start another. Maybe it's slowing down the way that you walk. Maybe it's spending a bit of time after you finish your workout to do a meditation. What are the macro moves? Maybe it's devoting yourself to a retreat. Maybe it's cultivating a daily practice of breathwork, meditation, or a regular psychedelic experience done in a very intentional way. I like to do it when I'm driving. I remove all distractions. I have music, music that I really resonate with, and I can have a euphoric, blissful experience when I'm driving because I'm just watching reality coming by and deeply present to the process. I'm in a profound state of not knowing, and I'm just there, like dialed in. And I can be so present in that state that it's just like, wow. That's one of my favorite ways. So you need to find the ways that you enjoy to make this an experience or a cultivated practice that you fall in love with. And trust me, it will pay dividend after dividend after dividend in your life because it's going to improve the entire quality of your life for the rest of your life. So that's it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed this perspective on presence, and I hope you take this seriously. Start to cultivate, start to practice. As always, if this is something that you want to work on and you want guided mentorship, I offer one-on-one coaching for men. And if that resonates with you, if you feel called towards this, check out the links to this episode. You'll find the links to working with me, and you might like to reach out and we can connect. And lastly, I'll leave you with the meta perspective here. So 98% of your daily activity is survival-based egoic agenda. It's just your mind, your function as a biological self, meeting its needs. Relationships, career, money, food, pleasure, entertainment, all of this stuff is, for the most part, autopilot and unconscious. That's how most of the people on the planet walk around for the majority of their lives. And of course, as I said before, we need to meet our needs. That's important. I've spent dozens and dozens of episodes of this podcast just helping to orient you towards meeting those needs, because that's really important as a foundation. And at the same time, if we want to go deeper, if you actually want to understand reality and yourself, then you have to cultivate a deep presence of mind. Your mind is your greatest asset. It's your greatest liability. It's the thing we're most vulnerable in. As a mind, you're walking around and your mind is so susceptible to the influence of others and to the corporations and entities within the world that would seek to harness and exploit your mind. And what I'm trying to do here is help you to take back control of your mind. And we're doing that by sharpening our capacity for self-awareness. We're literally cultivating and sharpening and shaping the qualities and the capacities of our mind to function the way that we want it. So we're creating sovereignty of mind. And I will have content for you coming for years, potentially decades to come, deconstructing all of the ways that your mind is influenced, controlled, manipulated, so that you can become hyper lucid and hyper aware of all of the ways that you need to be aware of to really master what's happening inside of your psyche. And so this capacity of presence, this is a foundational quality and capacity that we need to develop. It acts like a force multiplier. So it's going to compound the results that we get in every area of life, because we're focused on the quality of our awareness, which dictates everything. What you notice, the dots that you connect, how much you understand, how much control you have, how conscious you are. This is like your interface with reality. Your entire existence of life is mediated through your consciousness, through your mind. So by mastering this and developing sovereignty of this is how we get the most out of life. This is how we win the game. It's like the tool for the job. This is your sword. And we need our mind to be razor sharp, because if we want to actually understand reality, if we want to have an awakening, if we want to reach an enlightened state of being, We need a profound state of presence that enables us to penetrate the layers of illusion that cloud our mind. And if you think about it, we're all searching, we're all sort of bumbling through this life for a lot of the part of it, on autopilot, but there is a deep longing that exists inside of you, isn't there? There's a part of you that's like, there's more to this, there's a mystery here, I don't understand. Who am I really? What is all of this? What's the answer to this? You know, existence is a puzzle. Existence is a maze. And there's all these layers of illusion that cloud our mind, that prevent us from actually understanding the game for what it is. So we're literally like, we don't know. And your intuition tells you that there is a way of knowing, there's more. But we're yet to discover what that more is. We just know that there's more to it, right? And we have all of these liberated saints, sages, yogis, gurus, spiritual teachers, and spiritual traditions throughout history that tell us, yes, more is possible. Yes, there is a thing called enlightenment. It's attainable. And from that state, you can actually understand reality. You can unlock the game. You can decode the entire game. There is a higher truth or an absolute truth that's possible to reach. And I can validate that. It is possible to reach. And so the name of the game is, how do we see through the illusion? In the spiritual, in the tradition, in the yogic tradition, this is called Maya. It's like the world of illusion, the layers of illusion that prevent us from seeing reality as it truly is. You can Google this concept, Maya. And in order to do that, we need to be able to deconstruct our ego. We need to understand all of the mechanics of our mind and see the way that our survival is influencing us and corrupting our understanding, or our truthful understanding of reality. And so we can see that the ego and our survival agenda, this is like the bars of the cage that prevents us. This is the thing that we need to pierce through. This is the illusion that we need to be able to have the presence and sharpness of mind to be able to see through the bars of the cage. And presence is that key that unlocks the door. And so in order to cultivate that, we need to sharpen the capacity of our mind so that we can jailbreak ourselves out of the prison that we're in. And even once you do that, even if you have glimpses of peering through the bars of your prison, or perhaps you open your door and you stick your head outside for a bit, and you'll have a holy fuck, oh, right. You'll come back into the cage. I'm in the cage right now, for example. Even though I've left the cage many times, I still return back into the cage, but it changes my relationship to the cage. It changes my relationship to how I experience life, and you can't unsee what you have seen somehow. And then the work is, okay, how do I embody that? How do I transmit that? It will change the nature of your life forever. And it will deepen, and it'll improve your life in radical ways that are sort of quite hard to communicate and explain. But the mystery deepens, the joy of life improves, the meaning amplifies a million times, an infinite amount. And yeah, the path continues. And that's the path that I'm on. This is what I'm trying to teach. This is what I'm sharing. I'm sharing my journey of becoming and embodying and having these realizations. And with that awareness, channeling that in a certain way and bringing that view and combining that with all of the topics that I teach. And as you see, it creates deep content. It creates an interesting mind. And I'm really trying to cultivate that. I'm trying to, I'm sharing the journey of me developing sovereignty of mind and mastery of mind. And doing that in such a way where you get to have your cake and eat it too. You get to have your career, you get to have your relationship, you get to have the beautiful experience of life. But let's do it consciously. Let's do it intentionally. Let's play this game in the deepest way possible. Let's reach and understand and integrate the macro and then bring that down into the micro. So all of the decisions and choices and what we choose to do with our life is informed by that big picture meta perspective or understanding of everything. For me, this makes the most sense. And so that's what I'm trying to share here. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Would love to hear your feedback. Leave a comment or leave a review for the podcast. Reach out if you need support. That's it for this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.